raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you.
Cool.
See you
Take off?
next-
Yeah, I'll take
see you
off.
in the spring. We'll start with Jimmy.
Joe, what do you see as your main focuses this spring offensively?
Overall, as an entire offensive unit, main thing is that these guys understand that what we were able to accomplish last year does not just happen because you are here and you were the number one offense in the country. You don't just get to be that next year. Making sure that everybody knows the amount of work that went into that, remembers the guys that were here that did it. You got to remember what you put in to make that happen, and the new guys just got to understand that just because you come into this system with this group of guys around you, you don't just get to do what a Jalen Hyatt or a Cedric Tillman or a Hendon Hooker did. They put in the work to go earn that, and that's what the main focus for the entire offseason is, that we have to start back at square one. Last year's plays have absolutely nothing to do with next year's.
Patrick, then Austin.
Joey, with Coach Abrams stepping in that tight end's role, you've worked with him going back to Missouri, UCF, now here. He's maybe not a guy that's known a whole lot outside the building, but how would you describe his style and what he's going to bring to that room?
Yeah, Abe's does a great job with scheme. He's a schemer. He's always done that from back at UCF to here now. He's great in the run game. He's great in protections, from being in that side of the ball as a player as well. So a lot of our run game this year had his handprints all over it, and he's also an elite teacher of football. Not just a communicator of information, but he can teach at a really, really high level, and that's something that I know Coach Heupel values in this building, is having guys that can teach, not just tell you what's been told to them, but actually teach it and convey it to each person individually.
We haven't talked to you since you had a couple of offensive transfers. John Campbell, your thoughts on him, and then Dante Thornton. Where do you feel like, what he brings to the offense, and kind of where do you envision him, being in the offense?
Yeah, starting with John Campbell, you have a very large athletic guy right there, that long arms, big hands, like he is everything that you want as a tackle. He'll have a great chance to compete for a bunch of playing time. We got three or four or five really good tackles in that room that can go and play a bunch of ball. Really excited about what his athleticism and his experience. He's played a lot of big-time football, so he's not going to step into any kind of arena that's too big for him. So we're really excited about what he can bring. With Dante, really big guy that can run. He's 6'4" plus, and he's the day he steps on the field, he might always be the fastest guy on the field. So that guy can really roll, and he does a great job of giving you position flexibility with what he's done. His ability to get in and out of breaks, he's fluid. He can roll over the insteps. He can do all of that type of stuff. He can read defenses from his time playing college football. So he gives you a chance to move him all over the field and create mismatches.
Adam, then Vince.
Joey, first off, what's the plan to add, I presume, a third quarterback at some point? And secondly, when you look at Joe's film, game film only, not practice, what's your assessment of what you saw he did just in games last year?
Joe did a great job when he was the backup last year of preparing himself like he was the starter, which is why whenever he came in the game, he played at a really high level. When he moved over to the starter at the end of the year, same type of guy. He didn't change. He wasn't like, okay, now I have to be different because I'm in that starting role. Like, hey, I'm a different guy now. I changed the way No, he's still him. He's still himself moving forward. And that's why you saw him continually have more and more success from the week one, I'll call it, against Vandy to the Orange Bowl. He just kept growing. He doesn't feel like, I'm an older guy. I've got this thing figured out. He still attacks his preparation as if he's a young guy. I want to learn. I want to know everything. And that's why you're seeing him make the growth that he's made.
So in terms of play calling, your role, administrative, things like that, how much did the Orange Bowl look like how it's going to be moving forward this season?
Yeah, the Orange Bowl was still us. That's who we are. We're going to play with tempo. We're going to go vertical on people. We're going to dictate the pace of play. We're going to dictate what the defense can and can't do, when they can sub, when they can't. The aggression with what we attack with, we try to score from all over the field. One of our biggest sayings is it's really hard to score when you're not trying. So we try to score the ball. Whenever we get it, we anticipate crossing the goal line with it. That is who we are. We're going to attack. That ain't changing. That's what we are. It's what we said we were going to be the first day we got here. Nothing that is changing now.
Brent, Ryan, and Austin.
Joe, has anything changed for you the last month and a half since the Orange Bowl? I guess you're running the room now. Does that feel different? Have you had a couple of aha moments where everybody like, oh, they're looking for me for like the answer or anything like that?
Not maybe a little bit. It's been more, running the room, but the guys in there, it's been so communal in there from the very beginning. Everybody has a voice in that. In it now, at the end, Coach Heupel or myself has to make the final call. Okay, this is what we're ending up doing. But it's never been one guy talking and everyone else taking notes. It's always been extremely conversational. That's how the whole building is run. So as far as that one, it's not. It's been mostly on the recruiting side of now being responsible for the entire offensive side that you're recruiting, as opposed to just make sure you get your position, of having more phone calls to make, more contact to make with kids, and when they're on campus they have a coordinator meeting. So just there's a lot more to it on that side of the spectrum, as opposed to just being in the room and talking ball, which is what we do.
Joe, obviously back-to-back off seasons, Coach Heupel's promoted from within to fill vacancies on the offensive side. What if anything does that say to you about his philosophy? You've been with him for a long time, about when it comes to promoting guys from within and as opposed to going outside to hire somebody else.
I think it starts with what Hype expects from what we call the young coaching staff, the support staff on the side, is that they are coaches. They know football, they know how to teach, they know how to work, and they know what we do and how to do it at a high level. And that when he brings them in on the front end, he's not just hiring like helping hands. He wants to hire people that he sees being able to take that next step in the future. So it's not exclusively that way, but I think that's why you've seen that 2 years in a row, because he hired two young guys that he knew were elite at their position, and he got to see that firsthand for a year on one end and 2 years on the other end, and knew with a lot of confidence that they'd be able to step in and perform at a high level.
Cam Selden's a different looking kid.
He's a freak.
Yeah, and so where do you kind of envision him starting this spring? And if it's held back, how different is he compared to the rest of that room, just because he walks in the room physically bigger than most guys are having 10 or 2 or 3 years in the weight room?
Yeah, he gives you a chance to do some really fun stuff. Obviously, with a young guy that's first time in the building, you got to be careful not to bog somebody down and overload them with everything you could do. You got to get him good at one thing first. Where he ends up starting up, well, as we get through our pre-spring stuff, before we get on the field for spring ball, we'll make that decision more definitive as we roll, just based on what he can handle, what he does well, what he doesn't do well, and then be able to, once he gets one thing cemented, okay, he's really good at this, now you can start growing a guy like that's extra roles, really whatever they can handle, starting at a young age and moving on through his time throughout the program.
Vince to Jimmy.
Joe, as you know, Nico was in an unusual situation where he got a chance to practice with you going into the bowl game, but then he went to play in the Polynesian Bowl. Can you take us through his experience there, and you guys being for him being able to go there and do that?
Yeah, loved having really all these guys here. We basically got another spring ball with them almost, and a lot of them were doing scout team and all that, but just being able to sit in meetings, start learning the terminology. He came back this January and he had transferred all of his notes over to his iPad that he had, and he knows a lot of the way we call stuff, the way we take our drops, all of that when he first got on campus is monumental, because now you can start going into the details of actually playing the quarterback position, because he has a good, firm understanding of what we're trying to accomplish when we're calling plays. Now, he's young, he's got to learn. But I thought it was great that he got to go play football with us in December and then go play more football and then come back, so you're not 2 months off your high school career the first time you're picking up a ball again. I thought that was really beneficial for him, and I love when the guys can go play their all-star games. It's a cool experience for them. It's it's something that they've earned over their career, so we would never take away someone's ability to go play in an all-star game.
You mentioned that Thornton could play all over the field. How important is it for you to have receivers that can play multiple positions and perhaps create more mismatches?
Yeah, that's big. Anytime you get, skill position players that can create matchup issues, whether that's size on a smaller DB or speed on a bigger, linebacker, it gives you an ability to create things that can create explosive plays in the offense that are outside your realm of what you typically do. And whenever you can put stuff like that on tape, I think you just become more and more difficult to defend. Your base stuff is still what you do. You got to operate that at a high level, but as soon as you can start getting in there and saying, okay, like, how do I get this guy on this guy and create a matchup in our favor? Now you're working with some stuff that can be some game-changing type situations, which you saw us do with Jalen Hyatt quite a bit last year, getting him on the right body, not just putting him on the same guy over and over, but we got him on a certain person specifically, and he was able to turn those into touchdowns a lot of the time.
Coach Halzle, what's the biggest thing you learned or will take away from working under Coach Golish?
Yeah, the biggest thing from Coach Golish, he's extremely organized and detailed about how he goes through really every aspect of this job, from organizing the staff room to organizing the unit meetings to organizing recruiting. Everything about that was not just shooting from the hip. So understanding that I probably don't even know everything that I don't know yet. Just as long as you're detailed, oriented, and I know exactly how I want to go through everything, now it gives you a chance to get out ahead of those maybe mistakes that you would make as a first-time coordinator. We're like, oh man, I didn't see that one coming. So learning from him has been really big time as far as making sure you got all your ducks in a row and that you're ready to go, because the meeting's going to roll as you roll now.
Joe, with Taven leaving, is there a need to go get a third scholarship quarterback, or can a guy like Gasser and AD be that guy for you guys?
They're going to have a chance to this spring, absolutely. What with the transfer portal, you never know what's going to come in and out of your building anymore. So do you have to have a chance to be always evaluating? Yeah, absolutely. But we really like the guys in that room. We really like the guys. We have good players. We have good people that are smart and competitive and tough, and that's how we're trying to build that room. So, don't see a pressing need, but it could absolutely be one at some point. So I'm not going to sit here and say either way yes or no at this point.
Harvick and Adam.
Hey Coach, how did you find out that you were promoted, and what did that moment mean for you, having been part of this program?
Well, Hype called me. He said, "Are you ready?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Okay," and that was kind of the end of that one. But what it meant to me was, it's been fun moving up, because I've been with Coach Heupel my whole career, and I think for a lot of young coaches, sometimes it's hard to get out of that view as like a support staff type guy, and it was just getting moved into my first position job and then getting brought here and then getting bumped up to coordinator. It's just that he sees that I am doing it the right way and the way that he wants it done, and that he sees that I can be a benefit to the program, because if he didn't see it that way, it wouldn't have happened. He was not just doing it just to do it. So that was the biggest thing, is that he's instilling the confidence without having to give you like a pep talk, because he understands that this was the best thing for the program in his opinion.
It's rare that a true freshman gets a ton of reps in their first spring, even if they're an early enrollee. How much of a benefit do you think there could be for Nico to just get an enormous amount of reps?
Yeah, with the numbers in that room, there's a lot of reps to go around, which is completely different from the last couple of years that we were here. It's huge. The biggest thing about freshmen getting here, whether it's December for bowl practice or in spring ball, is they get a chance to mess it up. They're going to. I've told them that. You're going to mess it up. Don't play timid. Don't play slow trying to be right. Play fast as you can. Rip it all over the field. Make your mistakes. We'll come in the film room and we'll learn from them, and then we'll go back out there and try to make less each day as we're moving forward. But it gives you a chance that when fall camp comes around, they're not trying to figure out what to do. They've run all this before. They've seen all these different defensive looks, and now they're finding themselves as a player and how they operate within the system, which now gives you a chance to actually go operate with live fire in the fall.
Anything else? Okay. All right. Thank you. Coach.
Thank you.